Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
Really good, thank you. Yeah,
And relax.
breathe.
Breathe. Let's breathe normally. Mark Anderson, ICT Evangelist. Hello.
Oh yeah.
What keeps you going?
We talked before, before we started recording, and actually, it's about seeing the joy on children's faces. I'm really fortunate in what I do. You know, I get to share at big events like this, so at the Education Festival and what have you. But I still love the fact I've still got a foot in the classroom. You know, I was in Blackpool on Monday and Tuesday this week. I had 120 children from primary, secondary, FE, and just seeing the joy on their faces with the things they're doing. These are digital leaders that are going back into their schools and really helping embrace the change in ethos around the use of technology in schools. And you know, as you know, I'm a big sort of advocate for use of technology, not for the sake of it, you know, but
Very pragmatic.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. To try and impact on standards and learning and teaching and all the rest of it. But seeing, you know, the sort of look on kids' faces and the ideas they come up with. What's like we could develop an app to like help kids then come through and we can do that. Yeah, of course you can. You know, like wow, buzz, off they go, they're doing it. You know, and it's those things that, you know, really sort of get me up and going. You know, I've done 700 miles, whatever, this week and things, you know. But like I say, it's that opportunity, that privilege to work with children that is the reason why we got into the business in the first place. I started in my presentation a minute ago talking about education being a force for good and all these sort of things. And you sort of roll into that Michael Jackson thing about making the world a better place for you and me and the entire human race. But I think it's something that is innate in teachers. They want to make a difference. They want to make an impact, and that's where I sort of come from. And I'm really privileged, like I say, to be able to travel around and work with so many teachers and children and what have you. It's yeah.
So what's the state of education Britain out there? Because you also work in Scotland, in Wales, in Northern Ireland. What's it looking like, education Britain? Is it a healthy state?
It depends on who you talk to and where you go, as with most things. In terms of what I see in Wales, you know, I see people looking towards a new digital competency framework over there as being something which is sort of really getting people a bit sparked up about how they can embrace tech. Yet, just a few weeks ago, we had the report come out from the Select Committee about digital skills crisis. It's like, oh, what do you do about that? You know, of course, they embraced the move to go from ICT to computing that Go spearheaded and what have you. I think it does in some way go to shine a light on the use of technology and what have you. And certainly there is a gap in the computing and STEM market. But one of the things that Rory Bremner mentioned here, and in a conversation with somebody else in the audience as well, was this idea about creativity being sort of stripped out of the curriculum through courses and what have you, and things like the e-back and what have you. And for me, I think it's about looking at the whole child. You know, that's what's important. You know, grades, exams are important, but alongside that, we need to be helping children actually be functionally literate in terms of and literacy might be an overused term, but it's about making sure that children can go into the world and actually participate and be active citizens and what have you. And I think that some parts of our curriculum are sort of stripping that out. But it's great to see the work being done in Scotland and in Wales and what have you. And I'm hoping that maybe we can learn from them a little bit. I was working on the Isle of Man recently, and that they're looking to Scotland and Wales to develop their new curricula over there and what have you. And I think we could do better by talking more to each other rather than, you know, we are Great Britain for a reason. So let's be the United Kingdom and talk more about where we're at and what we're doing. I think that would be a great move forward. And you mentioned before about negativity and things. I see a lot of negativity I use social media an awful lot. I learn things every day from people who share great ideas and what have you. But I see a lot of negativity on there as well.
From the profession?
From the profession, yeah. And it's embarrassing sometimes, you know. Like, come on, you know, this is a public network. You're a working professional. You know, this reflects badly on you. Reflects badly on the profession as a whole, reflects badly on your school. I work on the basis that I would never sort of say anything that would upset my mum, my gran, or my head teacher or my governor, you know. And if I can keep those people happy, then I'm all right, you know. And there are people who are, you know, teaching professionals or F and Jeff and really deride people and all the rest of it. And we're in it together, you know. having some decent discourse and argument. Argument's fine,
Yeah,
but show some respect, you know. And some of the conversations I see just, they don't anger me, but they do upset me, because I think, you know, I know you, you know. We've met before, we've worked together or whatever. You know, you've got a lot you could be bringing into the game to share and make things better. Let's do it that way rather than...
You're relentlessly positive. What keeps you talked about the joy of the faces in Blackpool earlier this week.
Yeah.
On those digital leaders' faces. But what keeps you going? What keeps the passion burning in terms of what you're doing? You're writing a lot, covering a lot of miles, speaking. That takes its toll.
It does, but we've only got one life, you know, and it's important to me to have that opportunity, you know, to have a legacy. You know, I wrote my book. I'm not retiring on the sales, you know, and I didn't write it for that. I wrote it so that I could dedicate it to my children. I wrote it so that I have my own, with my geeky head on, I've got my own ISBN number, things like that, you know, and having a legacy that my children, when they're older, can go, look, this is what your granddad wrote, and this is what your great-grandfather wrote, and so forth and so on. And like I said, education is a force for good, and it's something I'm massively passionate about, and that's what gets me up in the morning, because I want to make a difference.
So now out of school, how do you miss it?
I did, first of all, before I sort of went freelance and started doing what I'm doing now, I read a few blog posts about the things I missed in school. And obviously I missed the classroom stuff, but it's the other things actually that I miss the most. It's the camaraderie amongst colleagues, it's the corridor conversations. I miss lunch duty. You know, one of those things that you hate most as a teacher. You're like, I've got no lunch, oh. You know, but I miss it. It's those chances to sit down and break bread with the kids at the table. And one of the most important things in education as a teacher is to build those relationships with children, because it has such a big impact on what you end up doing in the classroom. And it's those opportunities that I miss an awful lot.
You never quite wanted to go up all the way. You almost seem to want to go out and spread what you'd learned, because you were working, I remember when I first met you were working in that school in the southwest, Bristol, doing some great things. I remember some, which I still look at and pass on to people, that video about digital responsibility. If you're going to post stuff online, etc., etc. But you made that decision to spread yourself, to spread the message, ICT Evangelist.
I got into teaching because I wanted, like I said, to make a difference and what have you. But I always wanted to be a classroom teacher. I wanted to be face to face with the kids and have an impact on them. I never, although my background, my main degree is business and economics, I didn't want to move up into middle leadership or look at school leadership at all. But as I sort of grew up through my 20s, you know, I started to realise, actually, if I got a middle leadership role, actually I can make an even bigger difference. I could, you know, with my subject head on, I could actually, you know, improve the chances for all the kids in the school in my particular subject. And I thought, well, if I can do that like for my subject, well, actually I could do that for like the whole school, for every subject in a sort of teaching and learning role, and what have you. And so it was that sort of then made me think about, oh, actually. And so I started about 10 years ago sort of sharing things even wider, because I thought, well, we've got technology available to us. I'd spent some time talking with two people who are now good friends of mine, Andy Hutt and Tim Rylands, and they were blogging and sharing. I thought, I can do this too.
They were early bloggers.
Yeah, absolutely. and they inspired me to start doing what I'm doing now.
Then you did Teach Meets.
Yeah, the teach meets were huge, like, you know. But I spoke at a teach meet, first of all, at a different school in Bristol, and I was rubbish. You know,
When was this? 90, late 90s?
Oh, no, not that long ago. Probably about 9-10 years ago, maybe, so a little while ago. But I went along and I was pants. I was so bad. And I was like, I'm never going to do this again. And it wasn't that I wasn't going to talk and share again. I was never going to be that bad again. And so, right, you know, it's like being scared of spiders. Do you run away from the spider, or do you go to the spider? And I'm a go to the spider kind of guy, although I do hate spiders. And so I organised my first own teach meet. We had 30 or so people turn up, and it was good and what have you. But we shared what we did. We put it on social media and what have you. And I worked with, at the school I was at the time, I was working there with a guy called Jim Smith, who's the lazy teacher, who wrote the Lazy Teacher's Handbook and what have you. And he was really supportive of me doing the teach meets and what have you. And so we started working together on them. And from the first one through to the 6th or 7th one, we grew that from being sort of 30 people coming to sort of 300, 350 people coming from all over the country.
Not only grew those events, but it's grown you and your reputation.
Yeah, but again, it was never my. I didn't sit down sort of 5, 6, 7, whatever years ago and go, right, how can I get out of teaching? You know, it's always been about sharing. It's always been about, you know, doing what I can to help and support people. And Jim, with Jim's work and what have you, was going out and sharing in schools, and it was as much about going outwards and sharing things outwards as actually when you go and visit schools, you bring lots back into the school as well. And he alongside people who supported me like Ian Gilbert and Nina Jackson and Caroline from Crown House and David Bowman and what have you. Their sort of support led me to a place where actually I thought, well,
I'm going to write it down.
so they said, do you want to write a book? So I wrote a book, and the book again, which you very kindly helped me launch back in 2013 in a year in Brighton, down at the Labour conference, and
what a yurt! What a night!
It was a great night, really good,
Lovely. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you actually for
your pride made me so proud.
Oh, thank you.
I think you're fantastic. I love your positivity. Are you optimistic about our education nation?
Yeah, because I've got faith in humanity. And if you think about things in life, you know, most things revolve around some sort of bell curve, you know, and you're always going to have your people at one end, your minority at one end, and you'll always have your minority at the other end, okay? But if one thing's for sure, that bell curve will always move along. If you think about it, it happens in business, it happens in everything in life, you know. People reinvent things and improve it and refine it and what have you. And it's the Star Trek geek in me that sees us as being part of a United Federation of Planets. No. But I do see us, you know, moving forwards. And sometimes there are these uncomfortable conversations we see. Some could happen in a more respectful way, like I said. But actually, you do need people to challenge. It is the disruptors who shake things up and make you rethink and reevaluate where you are with things and then help move things forwards.
So you're optimistic about adoption of education technology for teaching and learning, to support teaching and learning?
Absolutely, and what's really powerful, I mean, so I sort of talk an awful lot about, is about this pedagogy first approach. All right, it's about getting those conditions for success right. When you're looking to bring in technology in your schools, get your questioning, your planning, all the various elements you'd have in your lesson, get those things absolutely bang on, get your house in order there, and then add technology into the mix. And I share an awful lot about keeping it simple and what have you. Like in a computing lesson, you want children to really show off their skills and create the whiz-bang stuff. But in geography, you want to focus on geography. So it's about using tools that are so simple that can have a big impact on learning. There's this impact effort prioritization matrix. And what you really want is stuff that's low effort but high impact.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I try and champion. And it's a pretty simple message, really. And you'd be surprised how many people will say, "Oh no, we want to jump through this hoop and do this and show off what is possible with technology." And well, yeah, you can do that maybe in the right context, in a media class or in a computing class or what have you, or in sort of a STEM environment or DT. You know, but when it comes to using tech for learning, it's about using stuff that's dead simple, massively scalable. You know, and that's where I sort of come from on that. And I'm the schools I visit, literally, you know, all around the world, I'm seeing a massive improvement. When I first started teaching, you know, the skill levels of children who came into me at year 7 were sort of here. The children who come to me in year 7 now are up here, you know, and it's the same as we move through. Someone asked me a question in my session about this idea of digital immigrants and digital natives, and I said, well, children are good at, you know, the things they want to be good at, like Instagram and Snapchat, what have you. I think because of the world they grow up in, they do have more ability to sort of pick things up more quickly, because it's more in their sort of space and what have you. But they don't come, you know, built in, ready to know how to use technology for learning, and that's where people like myself and Steve Wheeler and Oliver Quinlan and what have you are working in initial teacher training. You know, trying to get those skills in there as well.
For teachers.
For teachers, yeah, as early as possible. Excuse me, and also, you know, thinking about how we can support those teachers who are a little bit older as well, you know, and how we can model and what have you. And that's where things like digital leaders are massively important as well. It's having that multi-pronged approach, not just going, and there is no one-size-fits-all thing. We wouldn't do it to kids in our classrooms, why do it to our teachers? You know, so it's thinking creatively about how we do our CPD and what have you. But I see a massive increase in confidence.
So you're optimistic?
I'm massively optimistic, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
That's all right.
Really appreciate it.
Cheers.